The book of Ruth. This seems to be awfully loud this morning. Get it down lower here. Well, the book of Ruth is not a huge book, 4 chapters, but it's got a lot of information in it. I'm going to have to give Roger the credit for it because I asked, what do we want to study? And he said, the book of Ruth is pretty good. And I'd never even thought about that. But it is. It's an extremely good book. The best way to do it, because it's such a short book, is to read completely through it, kind of like what Paul has mentioned on when he gets studying a book. Read completely through it and find out what the whole thing is about. And then we can go back through and we can kind of pick it apart and see what kind of nuggets of truth that we can utilize. And so far, I was just talking with Paul a little this morning and what he's been going through, and I said, this is kind of what Naomi was going through. Some of the struggles that she had. But basically, who wrote the book of Ruth? Do we know for sure? Is there anything that says absolutely this is the person that wrote it? And at what time was this wrote? Nobody has any ideas. Many of them say that Samuel wrote it. And as far as the time, if we look at, I think it's the last chapter there in Ruth where it talks about the lineage, basically. In chapter 4 there, towards the end. It goes through the lineage basically from way back in Perez, clear up to Jesse, the father of David. And it doesn't mention anything about David being King David. So they're thinking that possibly Samuel wrote it when he knew that David was going to be king, but not until he did. So it was kind of sometime there, I don't know exactly when, but it was they figured before he was pronounced king. So, and honestly, I don't know as it makes a huge difference in knowing when that was or anything. I think some people kind of get hung up on exactly when, and they make arguments one way or the other, but I look at it as a great story. It's one of 2 books that were named after women. Esther is the other one. And one of the phrases or whatever is a timeless phrase that is used in thousands of weddings. And we're going to be looking at that this morning. But starting in chapter 1 of Ruth, verse 1, in the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land, and a man from Bethlehem in Judah, together with his wife and 2 sons, went to live for a while in the country of Moab. What do we know about Moab? Who dwelt there? Moabites. That was an easy one, wasn't it? How did they get along with Israel? Well, true, at times they did not get along at all. But that was happening basically after this. It wasn't a time where they were really at each other's throats. They were congenial. But he goes from Bethlehem. A man from Bethlehem goes, and his name in verse 2, the man's name was Elimelech. His wife's name was Naomi, and the names of his 2 sons was Mahlon and Chilion. They were Ephrathites from Bethlehem, Judah, and they went to Moab and lived there. Now they went there because what? There was a famine. They went to go to a place that would have more food, evidently, be more accommodating to them. What was Elimelech's, what was his status in Bethlehem? Do we know? I think we'll find out later on in the book that we'll find out that he was of pretty high status. And if we continue to look through this, his wife was well known also, because when she returns, there was lots to be said about her. So Elimelech and his wife Naomi, and the names of his two sons were Mahlon and Chilion. They were Ephrathites from Bethlehem, Judah. And they went to Moab and lived there. And now Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left with her two sons. So that's not a good thing. When you go to a new place and as soon as you get there, your husband dies. She's left with two sons. They married Moabite women, one named Orpah and the other Ruth. After they had lived there about 10 years, both Mahlon and Chilion also died, and Naomi was left without her two sons and her husband. Pretty devastating, isn't it? A new move. You get there, your husband dies. So you have two sons. I mean, you're not destitute. The two sons are going to take care of mom. They marry, and then what happens? They die. That's not a good thing, is it? Now, at that time, was it forbidden for them to marry Moabite women?
I think it was just frowned on, wasn't it?
It was frowned on. It wasn't necessarily forbidden because, like I say, they weren't really at war with each other. But it wasn't really what the kosher thing would be. I mean, you want to stay within. But they married, and then they die. What's the tradition, the law in marriage when your husband dies? Okay, who does the wife get to marry then? Brothers? And then...
We're the same tribe.
Right. There wasn't any left, though. It says both of them died, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
So there was nobody left for them, these women, to marry. So they were stuck. So verse 6, when she heard in Moab that the Lord had come to the aid of his people by providing food for them, Naomi and her daughter-in-laws prepared to return home from there. Now what does that mean? When she heard in Moab, they're living in Moab, that the Lord had provided aid to his people by providing food for them. Where is that at?
Back at the beginning where they left Bethlehem.
Back at Bethlehem, where they left. The Lord had provided food there. So basically the famine was over. She's thinking, I'm kind of out of my element here in Moab. It's better times in Bethlehem, so I'm going to go back. Which would be naturally what you would want to do, right? You've lost your husband, your sons, your daughter-in-laws are here, but who's taken care of? How were women taken care of at this time? Who provided for them?
By the men.
The husband or the sons. She has none. She's becoming very quickly destitute. And now that she's found that there's food, she's going to go back. And of course, Naomi and her daughter-in-laws prepared to return home from there. With her two daughter-in-laws, she left the place where she had been living and set out on the road that would take them back to the land of Judah. Verse 8, then Naomi said to her 2 daughter-in-laws, go back, each of you, to your mother's home. May the Lord show kindness to you as you have shown to your dead and to me. May the Lord grant that each of you will find rest in the home of another husband. Then she kissed them, and they wept aloud, and said to her, we will go back with you to your people. She really wants them to have a life, doesn't she? She's saying, why are you following me? Go back to your home. Go back. Find you a husband. And what do they say? No, we don't want him. We want to stay with you. I think they became fairly attached, I think, when they were married to the sons. Of course, the dad is gone, but I think for those 10 years that they were married, I think they probably got along as a family unit pretty well. Now, sometimes that doesn't work in today's society. The in-laws are kind of known as the outlaws sometimes. So, but in this case, I think it was a unit. They got along well. And then when the 2 sons died, naturally, the women come together. We're going to make it through here. We're going to tough this out. Now remember, the Moabites, who did they worship? Was it God, Jehovah? No. It was a different God. Elimelech, sons, and Naomi, who did they worship? God. God, Jehovah.
Wasn't that the difference why it was frowned upon? Because they worshiped 2 different gods.
Yep. Now, when you read this short passage here, what does it sound like to you? That these 2 daughter-in-laws, what does it sound like to you that they are gravitating towards? Truth, following her God, the God Jehovah. And because she's offered, go back to Moab, go back to your mom's house. Get a man there within Moab. Marry a Moabite. But they say, no, we don't want to do that. We want to follow you. Now, this could be a true heartfelt feeling, or as we have seen, there's food in Jerusalem or in Bethlehem. God's providing food for them. The famine is over. Hard times are over. I don't know what it's like in Moab. Could it be that they just wanted to go to be taken care of too? We don't know. But as we read further, we're going to find out the true reason that Ruth wanted to stay with Naomi. Verse 11, but Naomi said, return home, my daughters. Why would you come with me? Am I going to have any more sons who could become your husbands? And that's what we was talking about before. If she would have more sons, then there would be husbands available for these 2 women. I don't know exactly how old she is here, but she says, it ain't going to happen. Just the bottom line, it's not going to happen. So she's not going to be able to supply that for her daughter-in-laws. Return home, my daughters. I am too old to have another husband. Even if I thought there was still hope for me, even if I had a husband tonight and then gave birth to sons, would you wait until they grew up? Would you remain unmarried for them? No, my daughters. It is more bitter for me than for you, because the Lord's hand has gone out against me. How many times have we felt that way? The Lord's hand has gone out against me. Things just have not worked like I thought they should have. The world comes crashing down around us. I mean, it's kind of similar to Job, all the things that happened to Job, right? Do we ever get those feelings? Is it always just like, wow, God is just doing great wonders with me and everything is rainbows and flowers and, I haven't had a flat tire. It's not like that, is it? When we're following God, it's going to be a struggle, isn't it? It wasn't any different in that time. I truly believe that Naomi was very faithful to God in her belief and everything. She was doing everything she could to please God, and what's happened? She's lost her husband. She's lost her sons. They had to up and move. Women I don't think really like to move as much as men do. They like to establish a home. That's what Naomi wanted, was a home. Her children around her, her daughter-in-laws, her husband, that was what she wanted. And then what? God's hand has turned against her. And I can imagine what's going through her mind. And she's saying, you know what, it's no use. I mean, just go and enjoy your lives, girls. Go back to your home. Find you a husband. Go on with your life. Don't stick around me. God's against me. It's going to bleed over into your life. At this they wept again. Then Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth clung to her. So Orpah has decided, okay, I'll go back to Moab. It wasn't an easy decision, I don't believe, because it says they wept. It was a struggle. But what does it say about Ruth? She clung to her. I don't think it was a difficult decision for Ruth. I think it was made up. I think her mind was made up long before they headed back to Bethlehem. She was going to stick with her, no matter what. Verse 15, "Look," said Naomi, "your sister-in-law is going back to her people and her gods. Go back with her." But Ruth replied, "Don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if anything but death separates you and me." When we think of Ruth, we think of that saying right there, don't we? My people are your people are my people, your God is my God. That's a pretty major thing there, isn't it? Considering she was raised as a Moabite, that they had a different God, customs, traditions, all of that. And she's willing to change all of that.
That took a lot of guts.
It did. And especially when she's got the other relative here, Orpah, is going back to Moab. These are two Moabite women. One says, "I hate to go, but I'm going to." And the other says, "I'm not going to leave you. I'm going to be with you till I die." When you think about this, and of course, we do know that Ruth is in the lineage, of course, of King David. Ruth was the great-grandmother of King David, which on down through the line, basically, to Jesus. When you think about what she said, how can we apply that to our life today? In this world, when we live out in the world and we come to know Christ in our life, what kind of changes take place? Think about it. What kind of changes took place with Ruth here? Were they just subtle, minor changes? They were major, weren't they? When we give our life over to Christ, what kind of changes happen? Are they just subtle little things here and there? What happens to us? We become different people, don't we? We become new.
We're transformed, aren't we?
Exactly. We're not the same. Ruth is not the same here, is she? She's putting behind her everything in the past and said, I'm willing to follow you. And it's the same with us today. How many people out in the world have their gods before them? Whether it be money, luxury, leisure, whatever. You can put any kind of a god before them. And they always want to return to that, don't they? They want to worship that God. But what happens when they see the glory and the promise, the resurrection, the things that Christ offers? When they see that goodness, what do? They make a decision whether they're going to follow this new or go back to what they were. And that's exactly what it's showing here. Orpah decided to go back. She is not going to go back and worship God, is she? She's going to go back and worship what the Moabites worship, another god. Ruth is leaving that all behind. Saying, I'm going to follow you and your people, she says. She knows that Naomi's people are not her people. But she says, your people will be my people. She knows that the God that she worshipped in Moab is not the same God that Naomi worships. And she says, your God will be my God. She changes everything in her life, doesn't she? And we look at this, and Naomi still has the attitude that she has been basically rejected by God. I mean, how can anything good come from this? And yet now Ruth is wanting to follow her. So maybe there's just a little glimmer. Yes?
You know, it's amazing that Ruth would want to follow our God because she saw her father-in-law die, her brother-in-law die, and her husband die. And yet she still had faith enough to believe in him.
Exactly. I mean, she's not downcast like Naomi, is she? I'm sure she's seeing this in Naomi because Naomi said, the Lord has rejected me. But evidently Ruth has something in her that says, no, there's something better. There's something bigger here working. Because it would be discouraging to see all of this happening within a short period of time. I mean, 10 years, that's a short period of time, isn't it? They didn't have kids. Neither one of these women had kids. And who knows? I don't know why, but when you look at how all of this goes together, we're going to see when we finally end up at the end of this, how all the lineage came down through and how God had it all worked out. How it was all going to be. That Ruth would be a part of the lineage of Christ. through David. Any other questions, comments? Yes?
I'm just trying to get the context of where we're at. But, so this was during maybe the divided kingdom when there's judges? Or-
Yep, it's during the time of the judges.
So is Judah the southern tribe, the one that was, there were like two southern tribes, they were still in God's graces? Or is this, it was Judah the northern tribe? I can't remember. It was,
Yeah.
okay, got it.
Yeah, it was during the time of the judges. And it was a kind of a disruptive time. I think a lot of people were kind of on edge because of things that were going on. I mean, the people in Bethlehem here during the famine, they were going through rough times. And I don't know exactly, other than the fact that maybe things just weren't working out good for Elimelech, why he left. Because I don't think, we don't have any other records of a huge amount of people leaving, but he decided to leave. And in God's working, it worked out just right, didn't it? Because if he hadn't have left, where would Ruth be? She wouldn't be married to one of his sons. So God has a way of working things out that even though it is a struggle, which he tells us, even now, today, is it going to be easy to be a Christian? We're going to suffer persecution. We're going to suffer struggles. Dina?
I believe it was before the split, because it was before they had kings, and the nation split after there were kings. So this is before.
This is when they had the judges.
Yeah, when they had
Mhm.
judges. If you look at the
That's right,
last
divided
bit of
kingdom.
judges, you can see that the last verses, in those days, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes, and God sent those judges trying to
Mhm.
keep them going.
Right.
And we know Samuel was the last one, and that's when they completely rejected and told Samuel they wanted a king,
Right.
like everybody else.
And that's when who was put in place as their first king? Saul. And then who was the one after that? David. So that's where it, go ahead, Roger.
It just shows no matter how bad it looks, God's still in control.
In control, exactly.
He has a plan.
His plan will not be foiled. Period. It will not be foiled. It will always go through. Everything that has been prophesied, everything that has been promised, it's a guarantee that it will happen, that it will be fulfilled, without a doubt. And this is just a couple, 3 instances here in one small 4-chapter book. And we have this whole thing that's chock full of it. And yet, unfortunately, there are people that look at that and say, no. Coincidence. No, we can't really trust that. That's not really something that it's just a history book. And the way things are going now today, they want to discount a lot of history now so that we'd have nothing to stand upon. But we know what is truth, don't we? When we look at this, we know this is the way it is. So Naomi and Ruth are heading back. In verse 19, so the 2 women went on until they came to Bethlehem. When they arrived in Bethlehem, the whole town was stirred because of them, and the women exclaimed, "Can this be Naomi?" "Don't call me Naomi," she said to them. "Call me Mara, because of the Almighty has made my life very bitter." And that's what Mara means. Definition of that name is bitter. She's still struggling with this situation, isn't she? Now when it says, The whole town was stirred because of them, and the women exclaimed, "Is this Naomi?" From what I understand, this is during the harvest, the barley harvest, wheat harvest, which happens somewhere around April, May in that region. And at that time, the men are where? They're out harvesting. So when they pull into Bethlehem, most of the people there are women, isn't it? And they're saying, "Is this Naomi?" When they say that, what does that mean? If you left town, you were an upright, good citizen, you were part of the community and everything, you left town, you come back, well, is this Naomi? Is this Roger? To me, that means that you meant something to them. That there was something that went along with you. That when it left, it was missed, and when it came back, they were impressed. You left, but now you're back. And of course, she tells them, "Don't call me Naomi. Call me Mara. I'm bitter. God has not been good to me." And of course, I'm sure that they went in, as women do when they gather together. They talk and say, "This is what's happened to me. In the last 10 years or so, God has taken my husband. He's taken my 2 sons. This woman here that's now with me is a Moabite, the widow of one of my sons." And they're probably saying, "Oh, we are so sorry. Boy, yeah, it sure does look like God has rejected you. That's terrible." We go through the same thing today, don't we? When life hits us with many, many trials and tribulations, sometimes we can get kind of down in the dumps. We can say, "Woe is me." Aaron.
My hearing isn't very good. You already said this, I apologize, but in my side margin for the name Naomi, it says pleasant. So
Yep.
her countenance fell.
Mm-hmm.
They were expecting this pleasant lady that they remembered
Oh, yeah.
coming back, and now her countenance has fallen.
Yep. Completely different. What happened? We remember you as such an uplifted, outgoing, God-fearing woman. And now you come back all like,
You're a woman.
Yeah. And I can't imagine what she's going through.
You never realized that there was 3 deaths in
Oh,
her
yeah.
life.
Yep.
And that crushed her.
Mm-hmm.
It crushed her back.
Yep.
It's like, hey, whoa.
It's family.
I had 3 deaths, and then all of a sudden, one of them just went back into the mold.
Yep.
Boom. It's like a slap in the face or a kick in the gut.
Yep. So she says, "Call me Mara, because the Almighty has made my life very bitter. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi? The Lord has afflicted me. The Almighty has brought misfortune upon me." So Naomi returned from Moab, accompanied by Ruth, the Moabitess, her daughter-in-law, arriving in Bethlehem as the barley harvest was beginning.
But was she empty?
No. She felt empty.
She felt empty, and that despair has blinded her from seeing that God has been taking care of her.
Yep.
And that despair is so dangerous if we let it hang around. She's forgotten how to play the glad game.
Yep.
The cup is not always half empty.
It's,
It's
yes.
half full.
Mhm.
And when you look at it that way, it's a whole lot easier to accept these things that knock you down.
Right.
And, but she really wasn't empty-handed because she had Ruth.
Right. And that had to be some comfort. Even though all this stuff happened, and she is a little bitter. But it's the same with us. How easy can despair get a hold of us?
Oh, too easy.
How easy can all the complications get in the way of us doing what is right?
Too easy.
I mean, we have numerous examples, don't we? Within this congregation of people that have gotten caught up in despair. I can't do it. It's too much. And those are the ones that we're praying for, that God will show them that this is the way. This is the only way we can get through it. I'm out of time, so we'll start in chapter 2 next week, and we'll see how Ruth handles all of this. Thanks for all your comments.